Hey guys. So it's been about 2 weeks since I started school at Mills College. And for those of you who don't know, Mills College is a women's only college. So as a trans woman, there's so much affirmation in that for me. There's so much validation in my identity. But beyond that, just the experience of being in a space that is so centered around women is empowering to me as a woman, not just a trans woman. So when I applied to Mills, the person I was working with said that as long as I had documentation that showed that I was female, I would be able to attend. But between the time that I applied and the time that I started school, Mills actually went through this big policy change around their process for admissions and diverse gender identities. So basically what they ended up doing was defining who they see as female. They said if you are born a woman and identify as a woman, you're in. If you were born as a man and identify as a woman, you're in. Basically, if you identify as a woman, you're in, regardless of your documentation. For trans men, for example, what they defined is that if you've already transitioned and you identify as a man, you're not welcome at Mills because it's a women's only college. But if you start as a woman, then transition while you're on campus or while you're going to school there, that's fine. You can stay. You're not going to get kicked out for transitioning. And I think that's a great thing. Anyone who is going to Mills this year knows about this big change in the policy. Day one, it was like, here's a name tag and here, put your preferred gender pronouns. That's wonderful. I love seeing that sort of inclusivity, especially in an institution of higher education, which historically are not that friendly to trans people. But at the same time, it's also created this weird situation where now everyone on campus, it's like looking around and they're like, who are these trans women that are now allowed to be here? And I don't think that it's malicious, but it's obvious. So I'll give some examples. So today, I had a class, and in class we're talking about what are some of the ground rules that we want to set for this class. And the first thing that somebody else mentioned was pronoun usage. They talked about how instead of assuming somebody's identity, you should not assume it. That's, it's pretty basic. So if somebody says something and you want to, bounce off of what they just said, instead of saying something like, well, what she just said, I agree with or I disagree with. See, there you identified the person because you used pronouns. So they're saying use gender neutral pronouns. And then what she does is she goes, because for example, I don't know how somebody maybe Aaron would identify. And so just being sure that we're being inclusive like that. So I'm saying, man. So I appreciate the sentiment. And at the same time, you just called me out in front of the entire class. And what could be ambivalent about the way that I'm identifying? There's no ambiguity here. It's this weird paradox of being trans, and especially around my activism that I do as a trans person, because on one end, I want to raise awareness of trans issues. I don't want our community to be invisible, but at the same time, by doing that, I'm also creating an environment where trans people stand out and are singled out. So my goal, transitioning, is to be a woman. But at the same time, because there's more awareness about trans issues on campus, we're being singled out more. We're being sought after. People are looking for us. They're trying to identify us as trans. So it's this weird paradox where by raising awareness of trans issues, you then separate trans people into sort of their own category. And it's weird. It's weird. And I don't like it that much. One of the things that I was really excited about going to Mills was that I could just blend in as a woman. Maybe in a women's space like this, I won't have to worry about people misgendering me because everyone's a woman. So it will just be assumed that because I'm in this space, I'm a woman. So part of it was my own expectations, right? Because those expectations clearly are not happening, and I think a lot of that has to do with the increased awareness around trans people. But I just wanted to like come on and share a little bit about my experience so far in this space and what it's like. And I've had a bunch of people, actually. I've had, it's been only like 2 weeks that I've been on campus, and I've had probably 10 people come up and say that they've seen my videos, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what have you seen? So if you're going to Mills and you're watching this video, it's wonderful that you want to be accepting of diversity, but don't separate me out. There is so much more to me than just my status as a trans woman. And so don't just focus in on that one thing. Look at me as a whole person. So that's what I would say. Maybe one day the novelty of trans people will wear off and we can just be, people. We'll see. Anyway, that's what was on my mind today, and I wanted to share it. Anyway, that's all for today. So I'll see you guys later.